Welcome to Conversations with Esther. This is a safe space where we talk about everything in the work environment. And today we are talking about a matter that is key. We are talking about how to ace that job interview. This is a topic that will resonate to most of you at least. So you are tuned in the right channel. And for this conversation, we have Esther Katiba, who's hosting us in her space to help us with her wisdom in the area. Thank you for allowing us to be in your space, Esther.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you and welcome.
All right. So we want to talk about how to ace the job interview, because many people go for job interviews but are not called back. So there's a problem somewhere there. Where do we start? Let's start from the very beginning. How to prepare for that job interview?
That's a very good topic, and I think it's not just about the juniors, it also goes all the way to the top. It starts with your job search, and I want to start there. Maybe either you're jobless or you want to change the job. I advise that you need to do a background check on the organization, and I know most people don't do that. You need to check on the organization that you're joining or you want to join, and make a decision. Do I want to join this organization? Would I want to be part of the organization? And it goes into looking at their values, their mission, their core values, their vision, and yeah.
When you've said that, I'm just wondering, do people nowadays have that choice, that option of, weighing in if you want to go to that organization or not? Because people are jobless,
Yeah, you could be jobless, Stephanie, but I think you're not just looking for any job. You're looking for a place where you want to stay, you want to grow your career, you want to fit in the organization, the culture as well in the organization. So when you go into, and it's good now that everything is in the social media, you can actually Google and get to know an organization. You can even check, we have Glassdoor reviews, you can check and see what people say about the organization. So then you're making an informed decision that I really want to join this organization, so that as you apply for a job, does their mission, their core values, their vision align with your passion? And because you can go for, I know people would go for a job because of money and say, I'll look for the rest of the things. But that's how you go and suffer in a job, and you're thinking, this is not what I wanted to be in. This doesn't align with what I want to do in life. This doesn't align with my passion and my vision. Okay. So it's just good to check what they do, at least understand what they do and how they do it and why they do it. Okay. I think so it's that simple. Yes, then you can apply. Because that's why then there are websites, that's why there are social media pages, that's why there are many other social media pages for you to check and get the information and understand what they do and how you will grow into the organization.
All right.
Yes.
So now you have applied for that job, you have been called for an interview.
Yes.
So what next?
You need to prepare for the interview, and that's where the mistake is sometimes. That's what people wonder, why I was not called back or why I did not make it in the interview. You need to prepare. Number one, as I've said, check through the company. What do they do? What are they looking for? Look at the JD, because most, unless people are not really professional, most will advertise and give you the job description. Just look at the job and be honest with yourself, because there are times you look at the job description and you're like, I am good at this, but I'm honestly not good at number 2, 3, 4. So if the no's outweigh the yes, then possibly you might not succeed in that role. Because if you look and say, I may be very good in this part of sales, but I'm not good with maybe people and different other things. So you need to check and know which ones fit. If you see you have a higher chance of getting the job and you've been called for an interview, prepare for it. Prepare yourself. Even pitch, like for salespeople. I have sat in interviews and I'm listening to a salesperson that has done a presentation, but their pitching skills are bad. And you're wondering whether they will be able even to sell the organization itself, out there. So prepare and be confident, and it also goes all the way to your dressing and how you appear in an interview.
We want to know all about that preparation.
Yes.
Let's start from now the dressing. Now you're ready to go for that interview that early morning. How are you supposed to dress as a lady?
As a lady. I don't know why you chose a lady.
No, we're going to get to the gentleman. Let's start with the lady.
I think you need to, there are organizations that don't care. I've seen organizations that don't really care, and most of them, like NGOs, will go even in jeans and whatever it is. But at least be smart, casual smart. Even if it's a lady, be decent, because you never know who sits in the panel and what they're looking for. So that as you walk in, because the interview begins with how you even walk in, you know, your confidence, and have some, have some interview manners. You know, when you come into an interview, I've seen people that insist on shaking hands around the entire room, and sitting and choosing what to take, and you know, what are their juices? There's everything. You're all over the place, and everyone is wondering.
So people do that in the.
I know they do. People just come and they're so free, and they're talking to anyone, anyhow. Just be calm. Be composed, be professional, because they are looking, sometimes we sit in the panel and we are looking at you and saying, wow, this one is going a bit too fast, you know? Yeah. Even your language and the way you dress, as you're saying, just be decent, be modest, be presentable, be neat.
And that cuts across.
Be neat, especially, you know, because you're looking at someone saying, did they prepare, or they just grabbed something and came into the interview? Just try and be neat, even if it's just for that day. The rest you can relax later when you've learned the culture of the organization, if you come in. But just be modest, be decent, be presentable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you get into that room now, what are you supposed to do? You're not supposed to shake hands with the panel, as you said. So should you wait? Should you stand and wait to be told to sit? Should you go ahead and sit?
It's good manners to say good morning or good afternoon, whatever time it is, and maybe even ask, may I have a seat? Most of them will tell you, kindly have a seat, and they will direct you to where you sit. Others will just sit and wait and see what you do. So it's that confidence that you walk in and you're like, good morning, and then you wait, or can I have a seat here, or whatever. Yes. And I've seen others come into the interview and hold their handbag here like someone wants to run away. You know, I keep saying there are only two answers in an interview, by the way. It's a yes or no.
Yeah.
And
so you either get it or you don't.
Yes, it's you either get it or you don't. And employees or job seekers have the fear of a no. But you know, you can't get a yes in every interview. You can't just get a yes and you don't fail interviews because you're not competent. Maybe sometimes it's just not a match for you. So when you come in, just have that courtesy, have the confidence, because fear can be felt. Even people who just fidget in an interview and they just can't talk. Then you try and you're like, do you need some water? Please relax. You know, it already speaks, and especially if it's a leadership position, then it says something very different about you.
Automatically,
yes.
Almost disqualified.
Yes.
Of lack of confidence, despite you having the qualifications.
Yes.
All right. So now, what are some of the common questions asked in the interview?
So I had someone say, you know, HRs, you torture us with where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Tell us about yourself.
I know, tell us about yourself. And it's the hardest thing to really sell yourself sometimes and start saying, I started this, I started school here. I think don't fetch it too far. I went to this primary school, I got to these grades in primary school, and everyone is thinking we know. I mean, we already have your CV, we already have this and this. So when they ask you about yourself, I think you just, it's got to be very crispy about yourself and focus on your achievements as well. Focus on yourself and your things that you have done to turn around things or whatever you've achieved and where you've worked quickly, and let's move on, because then you take 30 minutes on yourself, the panel just logs out and they're like, it's okay, enough.
So how long should you use, what time should you use to explain to answer that question?
5 minutes is more than enough.
5 minutes?
Yes.
And should it be confined to the work description that they're looking for? Because you might have worked in so many places, but should the achievements be aligned to what they're looking for?
Definitely, I think because if you're applying for a specific job, then align what you're saying with that job and the JD that they sent to you.
Right.
It's no offense for you to talk about yourself and your family, but not the details. It is okay for you to say, I am married with this number of children, and I like that conversation because then if a company is hiring you for a job that demands that you travel or you relocate or anything else, then it already tells the panel that we need to consider the family as we engage this person, or if there are benefits to come in and anything else. Okay. So it's just very short and crispy, and let them now proceed to the next level.
All right. What about, tell me about your plans for the next 5 years. How are you supposed to answer that?
You must, that's why I said you need to check on the organization. You need to do your background checks on the organization that you're interviewing with and get to where they're going. Because if you don't understand where they're going, then your answer may be just misaligned. It's just, so if you look at it and maybe you go online and see, we hope in the next 2 years we are moving into the region, we are moving into different spaces, then you will align your answers with where the company is going. So that's why you need to know. It's not, you just can't come and tell me in the next 5 years I don't know, I want to be the CEO of this business.
So that's wrong. Because I'm coming to take the job.
Yeah, it's fine if you're close to it, but common sense, if you're down here 5 years, you definitely may not have that. We're looking at, what we are looking at when we're asking that is, are you aligned to the strategy and where the organization is going? So your background checks on the organization will guide you to answer that question so that you're able to answer and say, I see and I looked at where the organization is going and this is what I want to do, this is where I would want to be, this is what I would want to achieve, so that I help the organization get to where they plan to get. Right. It's really not about you. It's about the organization. So you need to differentiate when the interviewer is asking you about yourself and when they're asking you about the organization, because they want to see a perfect match and a person that will take us to the next level. Okay.
What other question do people fail at, or people make common mistakes around?
A lot is on the achievements, I think so, and your goals in life, because people will look at what are your goals in life, and you just the things that you're pursuing, you may not be the kind of a person that we're looking for. You're just talking your own things. So that's why I'm saying get a lot of information about that organization. Okay. Sometimes I know there are people who go to the website and find nothing, and it's good for the panel to be honest and say, but you see, when they ask you, what do you know about this organization? Please don't lie, because sometimes they know there's nothing in the public domain, and there you are lying and saying, I noticed you do this, I noticed you do this, and they all look at each other and see an integrity issue. Number one, because you're telling us what is not there. But when you answer and say, I looked around and I couldn't find any information, however, this is a little that I have, or this is what I could gather, then most of them will say, yes, we are aware that there's nothing out in the public domain. But it's good to be honest, and it's good to be very focused on what the organization is doing. Align yourself with them and with the job description and the results that you want to achieve.
All right, so those are some of the don'ts. And what about the bonuses? Are there things that you can do in an interview that will just automatically put you above the rest?
Definitely. It has to do with your confidence. Okay. Your integrity issues, because we pick a lot of, you see, there are questions that you'll be asked, and this consistency, most of the organizations will send you a form or a link to answer. Now remember that when you appear for the interview, we have the link and the feedback. Okay, but then you come to the interview and the salary on the link and the salary on the table is different, and your expectations are different, your achievements are different, your workplaces are different, your referees are just not in place, you know. So for me, number one, I would say integrity side.
Yeah.
Please be consistent in what you say. Understand your CV. Unfortunately, because most people now are paying consultants to do their CV, they forget or they don't even know what is on their CV, because the language that the consultant used on your CV is not your language, and so you don't understand it, you don't even go through it. So it's important that even if someone has to help you do your CV, be the person that drives what goes into your CV.
So it's okay to have someone help you
It's
with your
fine.
CV?
It's fine. It is okay. It is okay.
As
As long as it is the truth and it is, and you are aligned with it. If it's a lie, please don't allow it to go into your CV, because it will catch up with you.
Okay.
You know, it will catch up. Yeah.
Speaking of lies, sometimes in job interviews, they ask you how much were you being paid in your with your previous employer, and of course you don't want to maybe mention the exact amount because you want a higher amount in this other side. So is that also flagged as an integrity issue when found out?
It is a red flag, because though I have seen a lot of conversations that employers should disclose what a job offers.
Yeah.
And I think it should be, they should disclose. However, I know people can really apply for a job, because if you're on 50,000 and the job is at 200,000, you feel that if you say I am on 50, then they will give you 60.
Probably.
And some organizations do that, let's be honest.
Sure.
They think, then we can save something here. But it doesn't work to the benefit of the organization most of the time, because the person could even be underpaid where they are. They could really be a great resource, and if you give them a lower pay, then what it means is that they will continue searching for a job.
Okay.
So those small things that come up in an interview, and how much you paid, I keep saying it's good to throw it back to the organization. When they ask you about the pay, it is also good for you to wisely throw it back to them and say, I know the organization has a structure and you have a budget for this role. How much were you offering for this role?
Okay, so you can actually ask the question back.
Yes, you can ask that question, because every organization has a budget for a role, for that purpose. But most will ask because they want to just see how much they can save.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's actually fine. You won't be disqualified for asking how much they have allocated.
They have a budget.
For that.
They should. Any organization that's planning to hire, really, you must be having a budget for that role.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about now people preparing for the interviews and they have crammed? You know, we have so many YouTube channels and people educating others on how to ace the job interview. So people have actually crammed about. Tell me about yourself.
Until you get there and the questions are not the same as
yeah,
what you
when the
expected.
questions are turned, then you panic. So what happened?
What is important is that you, as I said, you need to be consistent and you need to be honest with your answers. Because if you haven't done something before, please don't say you have done it, because that.
You'll be caught.
Yes, you'll be caught, because they will give you an assignment. And some jobs that are practical, usually the best thing is to just give someone a practical assignment right on the spot. So you can come for an interview, you've crammed everything and you're okay, you're aligned, you answer questions because you had been coached by somebody.
Yeah.
You answer them perfectly until you're given a practical.
Yeah, you
And they
fail
tell
at
you,
it.
just sit here and do this for us. And you can't, because now you don't have time to call your coach, or you don't have time to call someone else or to Google. They've given you a machine, there's no internet, make a presentation and do it for us right here, and you flop.
Wow.
So just be honest, be yourself. I have done this before, or I've not been able to do this before. However, I am a fast learner, and the rest. And I know most people will say they are fast learners, but most organizations say we don't have time to train. Yes, but just be honest. I keep saying be honest. What you've achieved. What you've not been able to, you're in the process and you're willing to learn. And I think that just bit of saying, I am willing to learn on the job is a perfect answer.
Okay, amazing. There's this particular question that's almost a trick question. Tell me about your weaknesses. How are you supposed to answer that? What do you look for?
When I think some people ask that just because everybody else asks. I don't think, nobody is proud to just come and talk about their weaknesses, but please, when you go for an interview and you're asked about your weaknesses, think twice before you answer that question.
Okay.
Think. Don't go and say, I have an issue, I just have a weakness with women, I have a weakness with this.
Anger management issue.
I have management issues, I don't take this and this in a company, I will walk out on you. I'm impatient, no, just give a scenario that is very relevant to the job, but be very quick to give a way out, like, I have this, something happened to me, I had this issue, but this is how I resolved it and this is what I learned, this was the lesson. So you need to make sure by the time you leave that place, we know that you overcame it and it's not a weakness any longer. Yeah, right. And like most people who are perfectionists will come and say, you know, my weakness is that I honestly want everything aligned in place, and sometimes I know people feel pressured for that. But I have learned to accommodate people, however I make sure that things are done. So you maneuver through it.
And you know, is saying I'm a perfectionist almost a cliche nowadays because it has been used so much over time?
Yeah.
Do you see it as a, you know, from where you sit as a cliche when people answer with that?
You know, the job will test you, whether you're a perfectionist. We'll look at even the way you present your papers. You've seen clumsy people that just come with their papers everywhere in an interview and they can't tell which paper is above the other one, and you're still a perfectionist. And I'm asking myself questions like, you came in late, number one. Timekeeping is another thing in an interview, and people just need to know that you can't blame the traffic jam, you can't blame the directions, you can't blame other people for you getting there late. That is the first impression. If you get there and you're late, and we are sitting waiting for you, then the panel begins to say,
probably not the right candidate.
Yes, so the questions begin there. So if you come and tell us you're a perfectionist, and somebody will look at you and say, 15 minutes late, there is a perfectionist. So don't just use terms because people use them. If you know that's not where you are, avoid it. It's not a qualification for a job that you must be a perfectionist. Yeah, so just don't use it if you know you're not.
All right, now about social media, before we close this, about social media, people post a lot of things nowadays, and now the employers go back and look at your social media posts, and now
they use it.
They use it, in the interview.
Which is okay, because that's the person you are. So one time a gentleman walked into my office and he was very smart until when I looked at his profile, and someone may think I was biased, but there was a lot of insult and tribal issues on his platform, and it made me feel a bit uncomfortable. It was actually the election period, and the rest of those people lose their heads. And they post things that are really not good until it comes to bite later. You know, if you're insulting, and that's real, that's you, by the way. That's a real you. If you don't care when it goes to the public and it's insults, you're tribal, you're insulting a certain tribe, then most probably you will carry this into the workspace. So people just need to know how to control themselves and how to manage themselves, to manage their social media pages. If you know you have anger, you have issues against other people and tribes, please don't take it to the social media, because you're a brand. As much as people want to think that the company is separate and you're separate, it doesn't work. I cannot say that, Esther, what I do outside this space is different from Conversations with Esther. People want to know who is Esther, and they will look at what I post, they will look at what I say, they will look at how I behave. Then that forms Conversations with Esther. There are people who will not follow you because of small things that you do or a talk. And that's why you see on social media people are attacked by, this is what you said on social media. We don't trust you, we can't follow you, you know. So just be yourself.
Nowadays, the social media doesn't forget.
It doesn't. It never forgets, and it will just pull out something about you, and people will say, so she's different on stage, and when she comes off stage, then this is a person. So there has to be that character consistency.
All right.
Yes.
So finally, what are your tips? What would you tell that young person looking for a job and has been struggling to get an interview, or has been struggling to get a job after an interview?
Prepare for the interview very well. Do the best that you can. And as a believer, I will say, pray for the job that you're about to take. I saw a post of a friend that said, not every job is meant for you. What does that mean? It's sometimes we get into jobs and they become a pain point for us. They become a point for us. For me, if I don't have peace about a job, I don't take it. I don't take it. I don't want to force. I know someone will say, Esther, maybe it's because it's easy for you to get a job or something. But I also don't want to get into a job that I don't like going into, because then mental wellness and everything else follows, you know. I want to be in a job that I love doing. I want to be in a job that grows my career. I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to be abused in the job. So focus on jobs that make you happy. I mean, that align with your passion and your dream. So the rest, you can't just have every job. You can't have every job. Pray about it. Seek God. Think if you know that God holds your life, then allow Him to lead you. That will be a different conversation on how people get to know. But if you have no peace about it, then maybe you need to consider something different.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much, Esther, for allowing us into your space and for the great insights and wisdom around this particular area.
Thank you.
This has been Conversations with Esther, talking about how to ace that job interview. I hope you've taken a few tips from it. We have been recording live here at H&S Serena Hotel. My name is Stephanie Ayata. Let's meet next week, same time, same place. Converse with us at Conversations with Esther. That's on YouTube and Instagram, at Esther Katiba on LinkedIn. See you.